Hello friends, and welcome to another figure study where I'm, as you can see, still trying to feel out all this setup nonsense. I'll get it eventually. But you all aren't here to watch me fumble through my weird lighting and camera angle setup. You are here to find out about that thing I teased in the last video. Or you're just looking up videos of this toy and you saw the thumbnail and the title and decided to check it out, in which case, hi! But yes, today we are taking a look at Shinkansen Henkei Robo Shinkalion Z, or Z. Dark Shinkalion. Okay. So, I'm not going to go into a whole thing about all of the different series because I really don't know. Basically, from what I've seen, there are three different main toy lines that have been progressing over the years. There's the first one, which was very gimmick-heavy and neat for what it was, but not very big on articulation or anything like that. There was the second one that was better for articulation, not as gimmicky, but you could still, I think, like swap the upper bodies and lower bodies and whatever. And then there's this line, Shinkalion Z, or Z, whichever, which is a really, really solid refinement of those two from what I've seen, where it's trains that transform into robots, and they've got essentially like Scramble City style swapping, where you can swap individual legs, you can swap individual arms, you can swap torsos, you can swap waists. They've got 5mm ports all over the place, so you can combine different parts from like other figures and other series even. And it's just very modular, very cool. There is a lot of parts forming, which we will see when we do the transformation, but I don't care. Was kind of resisting the Shinkalion series for the longest time, and I saw videos of this thing, and I had to cave, and so I have caved, and now I've got Dark Shinkalion, and I've got the N700S Hida as well, and I've got the, I think the E5 Hayabusa is what it's called. Got that on order. So to start, as you can see, Dark Shinkalion makes a train, and it is a 5-car train where it's got discernible front, discernible back. The car's in the middle. This is, I believe, the order that it shows in the instructions, but I don't think they really have to go in this order. And realistically speaking, you don't have to keep them connected or anything like that. But it's, you know, a cool option. I did do some modifications on this guy. You'll notice that the windows are black along the sides there. I painted almost all of those myself. This toy, out of the box, the windows are not painted. So it's just kind of a red stripe going along there. And there are a couple of spots where the windows are there, but they're not actually painted. It's just they didn't paint the red there. I kind of wish that they had not painted, because it's black plastic. They could have just not painted the windows, but whatever. I didn't mind doing it myself. There aren't that many on here, and I think it looks so much better with the windows painted. I'm going to be doing it to the N700S Hida as well, and the E5 Hayabusa, but I kind of wanted to do this video now because I wanted to show you what it looks like unmodified versus modified. So anyway, Dark Shinkalion's train is a neat kind of bullet train. They're all bullet trains from what I understand. I believe that's why it's called Shinkansen Henkei Robo, because they're all Shinkansen trains. I think that's what these are referred to. I'm going by very, very, very rudimentary research here, so if I got it wrong, feel free to let me know, but don't hold it against me because I don't freaking know. I really like this train. It is not an official train of any kind. Most of the other ones are actual train models and are designed to look very, very accurate in train mode. And I believe these are also in a specific scale that's designed to match with a certain scale of model train or electric train or whatever, hobbyist trains, whatever you want to call them. And that's really cool. It's just something about the fact that like these are designed to scale with actual like train toys. This is obviously going to stand out like a sore thumb if you put it on a track next to one of those trains that's meant to be more realistic, but it's still cool. From what I understand, Dark Shinkalion is a bad guy, and this looks very much like a bad guy. He's got the very clearly bad guy, primarily black color scheme with some red here and there. which does show really nicely against the black. And then a little bit of gold up front for the teeth, we'll say, which we'll see in a little bit more detail in a minute. And yeah, I don't know, it's a cool train, and I like how all of the cars link up. Because that's the thing that I've seen with some of the other videos, and also have seen with the N700S Hida, is that sometimes you get a bunch of train cars and they don't all link up in one set. By contrast, the E5 Hayabusa has 3 train cars, and that's all it comes with. Unless you get like a fancier version that has 2 additional train cars that do other stuff. But I'm going off track. Pun not intended, but I'm going to enjoy it anyway. Getting back to what I was saying. Dark Shinkalion, very, very cool. And it's all, like I said, it's all linked up. You can see when I move one car, it moves them all. And I really like that feature. It's a little bit of a shame that it involves like parts forming stuff, which we'll see when we do the transformation, but there are ways to kind of work around that or adjust for it. So I'm going to disconnect the front and back cars, because, there we go, because the front and back cars are the main robot. These 3 are kind of, let's call them accessories. So slide those off to the side and take a look at Dark Shinkalion's primary robot mode. And now the way that these things work, you've got these connectors that are these little plastic connectors that have these little slits in them in different spots, and they're designed to just hook together, and that holds together. They're not going to fall apart. They're really solidly in there. They're not going to come apart unless you pull them apart. So this right here is what counts as Dark Shinkalion's robot mode, base robot mode. And just look at the detailing on this train. Like, there's a lot of really nice molded detailings, but also like the nonsense going on up here. I just love that. It's like a really angry cat. You've got an eye, you've got teeth. I like the little bit of red of the nose tip there too. I think this up here is supposed to be like the window that a driver would look out of, but at the same time, does a train like this have a driver? I don't know. And then around the side and back, you've got this angry-looking rear end with like these spiky fins, a little bit of silver. And again, virtually all of these windows on the sides I did paint myself. But yeah, it's a cool-looking evil train thing. And this bit too, which you can do this in all the different modes, because yes, there's more than just the robot mode. You've got an opening mouth in the front, where if you get a finger back behind this little ear thing here and pull up, it hinges forward like that. And when it hinges forward like that, then you can pull it up more and reveal this kind of cannon inside the mouth. And I'm sure it has relevance in the show. I just think it's like, it's silly, but I also kind of love it. I tend to leave this for the final mode, if you want to call it that. Yeah, I don't know, it's a cool feature. And then just close that back up. So one thing I wanted to show before moving on to the next bit, I wanted to show you what I meant when I was talking about painting the windows here. So all the little windows on Dark Shinkalion, I painted those. This is the N700S Hida, and you can see that there are a lot of windows on the side there, but none of them are painted. They don't come with stickers or anything like that. So eventually, when I'm done with this video and have the time, I'm going to be sitting down and starting to paint the windows on the N700S Hida here. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's not that difficult to do myself. And it looks so much better with the windows painted. Moving on to the accessory bits, there is this one that's probably the messiest looking out of all of them, and I hate this thing. I'll go over that later. This one looks a little bit more solid, some junk hanging off up here, and of course some giant guns on the front. And I also painted the inner barrel stuff for these guns to make them stand out a little bit better. But yeah, not quite as messy as the other piece, but a little more solidly boxy from the side at least. Though this side you've got this channel here. That's there for a reason, which we'll see later. And then finally we've got this one, which is probably the best of the accessory cars, we'll call it, even though it's got this giant trident peg to the side. The big cannon up top just kind of looks like it could be a, I don't know, giant air conditioning unit on the side of the train car or something. And yeah, you've got the smoke sticking out, but for the most part, it's, you know, it's a box with windows on it. It works as a train car. So for size comparisons, just gonna launch right into it, I guess. I'm not gonna do the entire train because it's just there's so many cars, but to give you a general idea, here is how Dark Shinkalion stacks up next to the standard deluxe squad. You can see that the train car is roughly deluxe vehicle size. It's thinner, but taller, and I think roughly the same length. But another thing to keep in mind is that while it's about deluxe size, this is only half of the base robot mode. So Dark Shinkalion's gonna be a pretty decent size once he's all put together. And since we've already seen him next to the N700S Hida, we're just gonna finish up our size comparison. So here is one of Dark Shinkalion's train cars with the duck tank. Alright, now it is time to transform this thing. So we are going to start with this bit, because this forms the legs. So first thing you want to do is pop off these bits here, and this is the unfortunate parts forming that I was talking about. These train wheels, they just kind of pop off and go off to the side when not in train mode, but there are ways to fan mode around that. So with those removed, I want to split this bit here at the top, and underneath here, these panels, these entire panels will come off, and they peg into this bit here and a little bit down here. So I like to do one at a time so that the entire thing doesn't fall apart. So just wiggle that out, and that comes out, and here you can see, there you go. See the peg holes there, there, and there, and the pegs on the inside there. And peg this bit and put that off to the side. Take this out, and split this bit. Fold this little bit back, fold this down, and this will kind of sort of click into place there. This entire section comes down, and it'll actually kind of sort of click into place going forward. And then this is going by the directions. This bit comes out and kind of sits down just like that. And that is one leg. Second leg, same deal. Flip that around, flip that down, flip this forward. And when you flip these bits out or back in, there is a little tab up here. So when you pull this out, you can kind of see that little gray tab there slots in right in there. So just want to be mindful of that when you pull this down. But pull that forward and it'll lock in place, and then hinge that down, and there's the second leg. This bit is the waist and upper legs, so this is what it looks like when it goes into train mode. To transform it, you just flip this bit up, and that'll go down, and then just give it another push to fully click that in place. And I painted the black around the very edges of this piece here. It does get stickers, but I did add the black myself. Now, to complete the lower body, these bits slide in here and click into place. And there is the lower body, all done. This is specific to Dark Shinkalion. It's a little different for some of the other ones, but what you can do if you wanted, you could use these pegs here and peg them back in here to give him kind of like skirts. And this is a little bit odd, I know, but at the same time, this is kind of what happens with a lot of the regular Shinkalion figures. So just in case anyone's wondering, Dark Shinkalion can do that. So I'll just leave him off to the side for now and grab the upper body. And that's the same deal. Just pop off the wheels. Again, unfortunate parts forming. Well, not even parts forming so much as unfortunate parts getting tossed aside. But anyway, with that done, you pull the front of the train in half. This part, back bit, splits in half, and then each of these becomes arms. This hinges down, rotates. This little panel here, a good angle, this panel here slides back and clicks into place. And then this bit here clicks up, so it's at kind of an angle. the other side, show you what I'm doing here. So just pop that apart, slide this back, do that a rotation, and then this goes up. And there we've got the second arm. And the upper body, there is a little kind of door here. It's hard to see, but basically what works best for me is to pull up here. You can kind of see how that separates. Just pull up and then grab this little edge that's popping up there and hinge that forward while kind of pushing up with these fingers, and that hinges this entire assembly forward. Just push that forward all the way. Pull this back, and that will reveal the head and bits for the arms to go in. And then underneath here, you pull this down, and that will click into place. And with that clicked in place, that locks this whole assembly together. This bit cannot go back down, and it's actually very cleverly done. So with all of that done, you can now attach the arms. So they just go into the hole there. Peg that in, and peg that in. The underside, there's that very distinct hole on the underside of the waist, and a very distinct peg on the top of this waist. Those go together, click together, and I love that it still gives them waist swivel when you do that. And that is gonna do it. That is Dark Shinkalion's base robot mode. And again, I'm just doing these bits to show you that's how, like, you can do this if you just want to do like the basic Shinkalion style robot stuff with Dark Shinkalion. You can do that with him. So this is sort of what the default is for most of the other Shinkalion Z figures. But Dark Shinkalion's a little bit different, so we still need some parts from over here. So I'm going to pop this piece off the top of this thing here. We're going to, this can just go off to the side. Once I'm done with this video, this piece is just getting tossed in a bag in the closet because this thing has no value to anything. Anyway, this bit here also pops off of the back. There we go. And the last thing we want to do is take the trident off the side of this one. So now what we do is we're going to pop these panels back off. We're going to give him his trident, and that goes into his hand, and unfortunately, because of the way that the end of the trident kind of tapers off, when you put it in his hand, it's not going to go in all the way. Like, that's basically as far as it goes. You can push it down maybe a little bit further, but like you can't get him to hold it up here, and that really kind of stinks because it would look a lot better if he could hold it better. And then this piece is supposed to become a shield, so there's a peg right in there. It'll peg into his hand, and again, this is how the instructions show to do it. They want you to peg it in like that. And then lastly, we take this piece. It was attached to the train like this. I'm going to flip it around like this because you want these two pegs on the sides here pointing up. And then you take these bits with the, like, you've got these kind of gappy sides on there, and then you've got the more filled out sides. This is basically the top of the back of the train. You want the top facing forward, so facing towards these two big pegs here. And that will peg on here. There's just these little peg holes right at the top there, peg in there. And these two chunky pegs will go into the back here, which is where the pegs for the arms went in. So that goes in there, and that gives him a kind of wing pack. And you can adjust the wings if you wanted to. You can have them kind of partially straight out, you can have them going up. You can of course rotate these because they're on a 5mm peg. I prefer to keep these down like this just because it's kind of, you know, what's in the instructions, and also the wings go up for a couple of the other modes, so I kind of just differentiate them a little bit. And there we go. But that is not all. All of this stuff is accessories and something else. So to start, we're going to pop the train wheels off of these, and these are like giant plates. These are much trickier to deal with. But once again, those all go off to the side, so we'll just pop all of these out, pop all of these out, and away they go. So, to start, I'm going to take this one, and this just pulls out like this. This piece we'll just put down here for a second. And these rotate back. Let's see what I'm doing more. This whole bit rotates back like this. Then this whole section here splits in half. There we go. And then it clips in here. You can see that there are clips here and pegs here, and then clips here and pegs here. So you know which side they go on. You want this kind of tab thing facing what will be backwards. Plus you can kind of see there's like an angled bit here, so this kind of nestles into that little angled bit, and that clip in. There we go. And on this side, you kind of see a little bit better what I'm doing, I think. These just clip in, and now we've got this chunk. Next we will take this and pop off the guns. This just can stay how it is, and these bits, what you want to do is, I mean, you don't have to change it, really, but what the instructions want you to do is there are two pegs on this darker gray piece. You want to pop this out and then push it back in with the lower peg so that it sits like that. This is how they want it to look. This is how it looks if you don't swap the pegs. And again, you don't have to, but going by the instructions. This bit, you just take this piece off of here, and then this, there are panels here that pop off entirely. So these kind of jaggedy sections here with the peg sticking out, that, oh, hold on, wrong thing. That pops out. And then this, there are two pegs on the inside here. They will peg into these. There are like 4 pegs on this raised bit. Like, ignore this. There are 4 peg holes here. You want to do these 2 that are further back. Again, going by the instructions. You could change it up if you wanted to. Pop this out and peg that in there. This whole thing will split. There's a gray piece in here that flips down and just fills that in. And this rotates forward and will click into place like that. This attachment point here swings in and will actually click into place, so it's now facing inward. And then this comes down like that. Same thing for this one. Just fold that in, fold this down. There we go. Fold this down, and that will click in place. And then fold this in, and that will click into place. Now we take all of these parts and stick them together. So I'm gonna grab this piece and this piece. There's a bigger peg hole here, so this will pop into that and just kind of angle it up like so. This goes on the same side, and now this unsightly channel here, that's because there's a peg on the inside of this piece here. And when you put this together, let me angle it so you can actually see what I'm talking about. When you put this together, that peg sits in that channel. And this allows this piece to keep moving with that peg in place. I'm going to take the gun here and this section here. This will clip in there. You can just kind of see this little channel right up around here. And there are these little tabs right around here on either side of this piece that's sandwiched together. You want to line this up and push that together. There you go. Next, these will attach here. You want these dark gray pieces going to the outside, so that pops in like that, and pops in like that. And then you've got these tabs, these 2 big chunky tabs down here, and these 2 kind of rectangular holes here. Those will sandwich together. And then I want to slide this piece out and click it in place, pull it up, pull that up. And finally, there are these tabs almost on either side of this piece, and there are slots on the sides here. You want to essentially try and get those tabs to just kind of rest in those slots. So now that all of that is done, that's a lot of transformation, this video is going to be so long. Now we have Dark Shinkalion and his horse. He has a horse. It's a robot made out of trains with a horse, also made out of trains. This is absurd and I love it. So yes, this is the default look for everything. I generally only make a couple of minor tweaks to Dark Shinkalion, which we'll see in a second, but I love this. This is so freaking cool. I will show you in a minute that he can actually ride the horse. There's not like a distinct connection, like he doesn't peg in or clip on anywhere when he's riding the horse, but you can get him to sit on the horse, and he just rides it, and it's freaking cool. Let's just take a minute to revel in how freaking cool this robot looks. He's a little bit lanky, but like, it still works. He's got this really kind of dynamic silhouette, not just because of the wings on the back, though that is a big help, but like, I really like how these shoulder bits angle up. And I mean, you can keep them down if you want by not clicking them in place, but no, they look so much better when they're clicked up like that. Again, just some really nice colors here, and now you've got this lighter gray to kind of go with the black and the red highlights. The black windows, I think, again, make a big difference because that kind of separates things out a little bit more. The wing pack is fun. It sticks out a little bit, but it's not too bad. And you even get a little bit more gold by way of his little clawed toes down at the bottom there. So that kind of matches with the teeth up there. And if you wanted to, you could open the chest thingy, like with this flap from the transformation, with this flap pushed forward, it does not get in the way of opening the cannon mouth at all, which is really cool. It's really cleverly done. Now, in terms of things that I like to do to kind of tweak this just a little bit, I don't like the way that he holds the shield. He holds it a little bit weird, like it's just kind of hanging down. So what I find that works is, instead of pegging it into the top of his fist, just flip it around and peg it into the bottom of his fist. And now he's holding it up a little higher. It's still not accurate. I looked up photos of, like, I think it was the show model or something like that, and in the photos that I saw, he's supposed to have it on his arm, like on the side like this, but you can't do that. I actually have 90-degree 5mm peg adapters coming from Non-F, specifically so I can get him to hold the shield properly, but I also think it'll help with fan mode stuff. That's how heavily into this I am. I think that works. That looks a little bit better with the shield kind of up higher. And then these kibble bits hanging off of his legs here, I think they're supposed to kind of bulk him out a little bit, and it's fine. I mean, I get it. And this is something that's baked into all the other Shinkalion figures, because these come down and form like kind of pods along the sides of the legs, but because those become these back wings, it's not really necessary to have these down. So if you wanted to, you could just push them up like that, which is an option. But what I actually like to do, when I was just kind of messing around one day and found out about this, is that you can rotate these, like these do spin. So if you rotate these up, you can then sandwich them up like this. And that, I think, it breaks up the leg a little bit more, it brings this armor-looking piece up towards the knee, and I think it just gives him a more interesting-looking leg. So there's that. And that's what I like to do with Dark Shinkalion's base robot mode. As for the head, it's a nifty kind of anime robot head. He's got kind of a multiple eyes and the head crest thing going, kind of like Deathsaurus or Dezaurus or whatever you want to call him. I like the colors here too. Some white for the face, but then a little bit of silver, some gold, black, red. All looks really good. The sculpt is really nice. It's nice and pointy, nice and evil looking. He's got this kind of crest thing up the top of his head, which looks good. Thing to note with Dark Shinkalion is I actually modified his torso a little bit. So I popped the head off. You can kind of see up here, I actually carved out a lot of plastic right around here, because the way that his head is shaped, he's got this kind of lip going down behind the chin there. It really impedes his head movement. Like, you can turn his head, but it had to like go up like this to look all the way to the side. So by carving that stuff out, it's now possible for him to look further in a direction before his head starts going up. And I just think that looks better. I think it's more natural. I really, really like just the base robot mode is a lot of fun. It's getting all the accessories and stuff out of the way because, you know, it's just gonna impede things, but let's go over articulation. So as we were talking about the head's on a ball joint, so you can't really tilt. I guess if he's looking up, you can tilt slightly, but you can look up and down and can turn. The arms can do the full 360, and then there is a joint in the side there, so you can go out. And this plate here can get in the way, but if you slide that forward, you can go out further, or if you rotate the arm. You get a bicep swivel, you have a well over 90-degree bend at the elbow. The wrists do rotate, so you can rotate the hands, which is cool. You have waist rotation. Another thing that I found that you can do, well, I say found, I totally ripped this off of seeing, what was it, I believe it was Yukio? I'll link to the channel up there, but I saw in a video from, I think it was Yukio, that you can fudge the waist and give him like an ab crunch because of the way that he transforms. So if you unclick the torso section, now you get an ab crunch. It's super loose, so it's not going to hold, but like you can get a little bit of an angle in the torso. And the thing is, like, I was worried that doing that would cause the head section to like flop back in, but when you've got the arms pegged in, those are blocking this bit here, so that keeps it from popping back down. So the head cannot move down when you detransform or unclick this little bit here, so you can get just a little bit more expressive with it with an ab crunch. For the legs, they can go forward and back and in and out. Looks like they can only go out that far, so the full 90. There is a thigh swivel. Very tight, but it is there. There are knees, and they're actually double jointed knees. So you've got a lower joint and an upper joint for really, really nice knee bends. And then the ankles are on ball joints, so you can get quite a bit of side-to-side tilt. You can get rotation, and depending on where the tilt lines up with the cuts in the joint there, you can get even more severe tilt. And then you also get some forward and backward, and if you wanted to, you can break that transformation joint to go further backward. And if you wanted to detransform it a little bit, you could also even get like a toe movement out of it. So yeah, these guys are pretty darn articulated. And the reason I say these guys is because all of the base robot Shinkalion Z figures are functionally the same. There's like some molding differences, some very slight differences, like with Dark Shinkalion having the big panels that become the wings. Most of them, it's just like the little tip of the train nose that will actually stay attached to like part of the leg there. But for the most part, the actual skeleton of the robots, it's all pretty much identical. So they've pretty much all got the same articulation, the same basic transformation. I'm a little bothered by it because it means that every figure is basically just a repaint with some obvious differences. But anyway, the horse. I don't know what this thing's name is, and it looks a little bit weird, but I also love it. It reads as a horse, and it even has a little bit of articulation. Before I get into the articulation, though, I do want to say this piece here, going into why I hate it so much, it's soft plastic. And because it's soft plastic, it's really, really easy to either knock it off when it's in the different modes, or it'll just fall off on its own when I'm like moving stuff, and I hate it so much. And you really don't lose anything if you don't use this, because like this is where it goes for the horse, and if you don't want to use it, just take it off, and what's lost here? There's nothing lost here. But anyway, you do have some articulation for the horse, so the head can look up a little bit more, or a lot more. And you can angle the head down this way if you wanted to as well. The forelegs can rotate up like so. They can go out a lot. They also have a swivel, and they're also double jointed at the knee. It doesn't bend as far for the horse legs, purely because this peg gets in the way. So if I move this, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. When you bend the leg, that peg just kind of starts bumping into plastic. The rear legs can also rotate forward and backward. They can't go out, unfortunately. And you can't really, because of the angles involved, like right up here, you can't really angle. Well, I guess you can angle it in if you wanted to. I don't know why you would want to, but you can do that. Also, if you wanted to, you could unclick that and bend that back if you want, but there's really no need because of this. This bit here, it does rotate, as you can clearly see, but I should say when I first got this rotation was very tight, like concerningly tight. I was grabbing it up here to turn it because I was worried that I might stress the plastic too much. So what I ended up doing was turning it upside down, just rotating things a bit so I could get a little bit of shock oil down in that joint, and just did a couple of drops of shock oil, rotated the thing around, and it now, as you can see, spins beautifully. You get a little bit of a knee, so it can bend back that far and bend forward a lot. And then you also get a little bit of click here. And then also the tail can move up and down. I said I'd show you Dark Shinkalion riding his horse, and I am delivering. So there he is on the horse. He's not solidly on there, he's just kind of resting, as you can see. So that is an option for that. Okay, as cool as Dark Shinkalion riding his horse is, it's going to be a little bit easier to do size comparisons with them separate, so we're just going to do this for now. Okay, let's try this again, because that first camera angle was not ideal for showing off sizes, but yeah, here you can see just how much bigger Dark Shinkalion is compared to a standard deluxe. He's like roughly modern leader size. And this is pretty much like the standard height for Shinkalion Z figures. So they're all pretty much this big. I was not really expecting that. I know I haven't actually shown this one yet, but again, I just wanted to do kind of a side-by-side so you could see what I was talking about with some of the modifications I made. Here is the N700S Hida, and next to Dark Shinkalion, you can see what I was talking about with like the arms and stuff, how you've got the visible, not visible, but like the painted windows here versus the non-painted windows here. And I just think that difference in detail really does help. Also worth noting, I did not carve out the collar section around the N700S Hida. So this should give you an idea of the changes I made, where I carved out a bunch of stuff here, and this is more what it looks like when that section's not carved out. Similarly, with the heads attached, here's the articulation on Dark Shinkalion, here's the articulation on the N700S Hida. You can see that, like, as soon as the head starts to turn, it starts moving up, whereas Dark Shinkalion has a bit more leeway. And that's because of the stuff that's carved out there. Also, as I was saying, the parts are interchangeable, so you can swap arms, you can swap legs, you can attach the wing pack on the back there. You've got lots of playability options with these figures, and I really like that. And lastly, here they are with the duck tank. Okay, we are not done. There's still so much more we can do with this guy. So, to start, we're going to take the horse and rip off the front legs. We're going to collapse the head down and push that back in. These we are going to rotate these gray bits up, and then these guns will peg onto the back here. For Dark Shinkalion's robot mode, we're going to pop the wing pack off and rip off his legs, rip off his waist section, and pop off his shield. For the legs, you just want to collapse that up as it's supposed to be, and then these panels flip back, but then you want to keep the foot out. So I'm showing you a little bit more closely because I was holding things so far back. Angle this down and just put it back up there, and this panel flips back around. These connect to where the horse's forelegs were, so those just snap in there. The waist section, I want to just kind of straighten everything else out, and then the shield will go over it, and there are these little slots right here that will go around these kind of kneecaps. I want to kind of line up like that, and then these two peg holes on the backs of the thighs will peg in here. Bring that in and peg that down. Take the wings off, fold these little dark gray bits down, not all the way, just about like that. The wings will peg onto this upper peg here, using that peg hole, so just peg that in. This piece, there are peg holes on the bottom here that'll peg in up here. This ridiculous thing slots back where it was in the horse mode, except it goes this way. And then we plunk the upper body down. You can already see that shifted. Plunk the upper body down, and now, yes, oh yes, we have a freaking centaur mode. Dark Shinkalion has a centaur mode, and it looks fantastic. I love this so much. It's all the same parts that you use for the regular horse, but like, I don't know, it just works so well. I almost feel like the proportions of this are a little bit better because the horse had like these kind of skinnier forelegs, and now the size of the back legs and forelegs kind of works a little bit better. You can even do some, a thing that I like to do for like a fan mode thing is take Trident out of his hand, and there are pegs or peg holes on the tail section here. Peg that in there, and basically just kind of line it up so that this goes back there. I don't want it to bend, so I just kind of try and rotate it down a little bit, but that kind of gives him a little bit of a fancy looking tail. Then you can pop off what were the horse's forelegs and take off these little gray bits. The gray bits I just pop right back up here, you know, just to give them someplace to go. They don't really need to go there. I mean, this is just kind of fan moding anyway. And then pop these into his hands, and now we have a gunslinging centaur. I love this. Ah, it's so good. So the articulation for this mode is exactly the same as, like, this is pretty much the same as the horse. This is the same as the robot. The only real difference is because of this plate on the back, the tail doesn't move as much. And so get rid of this, because again, this piece just it falls off so easily. And what is that adding? If you take that off, would you really know that it was missing? But anyway, the forelegs now, because you don't have that same impediment, they can curl up a lot better. I don't know what else to say. I just love it. Colors work great together because they're all the same kind of color scheme. They're all complementary. It's the same colors, so you don't really notice the fact that it's like mix and matched parts from his steed. And it makes him a little bit larger. Granted, this is basically what he'd be like in terms of height if it was just Dark Shinkalion sitting on the horse. But this is still really cool. And he's much bigger now than a standard deluxe because he's incorporating the horse bits. In case you're curious how he stacks up to a more standard-sized Shinkalion figure, well, here he is with the N700S Kita. He gains a little bit of height, but he also gains a lot of bulk. And here he is with the duck tank. Oh, but we are not done. There's a little bit more to do, so I'm just gonna rip this guy apart and get back to you in a second. Okay, so we've got all these parts. They're all broken down into parts that we've seen before. So to start, I'm going to take what were the, I guess, upper thigh sections of the horse's forelegs and clip this part back together. And now these are going to rotate up, and this will make a much larger pelvis and thigh section. This chunk here, which was kind of the midsection of the horse, is going to pull apart, and and then these bits will fold down, like so, and then in comes the larger robot thighs, and those clip in there. That gives us kind of big robot pants. Okay, next we're going to take these small dark gray pieces and we're going to take the legs. We're going to transform the legs back as though we were going to train mode. So what we do from here is there are these little clips on the ends of the dark gray pieces that go in where the legs normally do. Now you've got these two pegs that can peg into the sides of the giant robot legs. So peg those in like there. Give them saddlebags, I guess. Next, the arms go back to train mode configuration as well. And now these, there are these peg holes on the forearms there that peg into these pegs on the backs of the legs here. This kind of bulks out the legs more, and I guess these are supposed to be like thrusters or something. For the waist section, we want to grab the gun/horse legs and attach those like so. So now he's got little horse legs. I'm going to grab this piece again, bring back the wing pieces, and peg that together as though we were doing the wing pack again, with one major difference. I'm going to take the waist section and attach that to the wing pack, and then angle the legs at the knee, and also bring those forward a bit, and then fold the wings up, and this will connect into the back, and now we've got this going on. And that we can peg to the giant robot legs. So now you can kind of see where this is going. This, the horse head section, you want these big tabs kind of at the bottom, and you want to take the horse tail, and there are these kind of grooves on either side of the big gun. The big tabs will go around those grooves, and this will click in place and make a large cannon thing. For the horse legs, you want to click this back out so that it's going forward, and you actually click it up, like so, to give this kind of an angle. Unclick this bit here so it can move freely. Rotate this piece, and then this bit will fold back and settle into place and make a giant robot arm. And that pops in there. Same deal here, just fold that out, flip that up, pull that down, rotate it, and fold that back, and giant robot arm. Now this one, the left arm, there's a peg hole here. The peg hole's on the other side of this too, so you can do this on either arm, but I'm going by the instructions. This peg hole here, you want to peg the shield in like that. I'm going to attach that here. The big cannon, this peg just goes into the hand, so now he's holding a big cannon. The trident goes into his fist, and then lastly, this useless thing goes around his head and gives him a funny little crown. And here we have Dark Shinkalion in his devil mode. So this set is 5 trains that make a humanoid robot and an equine robot. The humanoid robot can ride the horse, they make a centaur, and they make this, a giant, very well-armed, imposing-looking robot, and I love this. I understand that not all Shinkalion toys are going to have this level of playability, but this is a heck of a first outing for this series for me, because this is incredible. I am just enamored with this set. Like, I legitimately can't decide which mode I like best. I would probably put the trains in last, just because I'm not huge into alt modes most of the time. The base robot with the horse, especially riding the horse, looks amazing. The centaur mode looks amazing. This looks amazing. I legitimately don't know what to do in terms of like how to display them. So I've been messing around with this thing. Like I got this thing a few days ago and I have not been able to stop messing with it. I just look at it on my desk and I'm like, I've got to transform it again. I've got to turn it into something else. And I know that parts forming is a pain for some folks. I have my issues with it as well. The parts forming here does not bother me at all because everything has a place to go. The only thing that stinks is being left with all of this. Like this is unfortunate. But the way that the older Shinkalion toys worked is these kind of connector bits were incorporated more into the robot mode, and they would just kind of sit off to the side, and they tended to look pretty unsightly. I feel like if this is the alternative to get like some bits left off to the side, like just the wheels, and only when you're not in train mode, for the sake of a much cleaner and better articulated everything else, I feel like that's a worthwhile trade-off. Plus, because these things use 5mm pegs and there are 5mm ports all over this guy, you can do stuff with these bits. But anyway, let's just talk about what we've got here, and this guy looks fantastic. Like, they even managed to address the proportions because they gave him bigger arms, bigger legs, and a bigger waist and thigh section, like specifically for this mode, to make him look more cohesive as a giant robot. The only thing that really didn't change size at all is his torso section here, but his torso section, it's kind of a weird shape to begin with because it's the entire front of train, so I feel like it still works really well, even in this mode. The only thing I'm not crazy about is that head crown thing. But yeah, this looks amazing, and like, yeah, there's kibble, but he kind of wears it really well. And a lot of what you see here is stuff that you've seen in the other modes. The only real differences in particular are the fact that this is now the full thing and shows as, you know, robot waist section. And you get these details here, which were on the bottom of the horse mode and the centaur mode. So you get some stickers here and some gold toes there. And everything else is pretty much stuff that we've seen before, just kind of moved to different spots and recontextualized, and it works really well. And again, I really like the painted in windows. I mean, it's not as evident here, it's mostly just in the shoulders, but still, I really like that. As for that crown thing, I don't really think it adds anything. It makes the head look slightly bigger and more ornate, but it's yellow plastic with some red paint on it, so like the yellow doesn't really match the gold that you've got elsewhere. It tries, and it matches the trident, but that's pretty much it. And it's not a particularly fantastic shape, like it's not really blowing me away, so it just seems unnecessary. And like all the other modes, if you lose it, what difference does it make? Yeah, his head doesn't look as big, but like, he still looks fine. His head doesn't look unnecessarily small. It works for, you know, anime robot proportions. You don't have to worry about the stupid head crest falling off. And also, the head crest has these little kind of flaps that stick down here that make it much harder to turn his head because those flaps kind of get caught on the edges of things and then it just makes the head crest fall off. So it's like, it actually hinders, basically, it hinders the head articulation. So just leave it off. There's no reason for it. And it looks totally fine like that. I think it looks cooler like that. I do a little bit of fan moding with this guy as well. To start, I'm going to take his big cannon off just for now. I'm going to bring these bits out so that his cannons are kind of more angled out a little bit. One other thing I like to do is these panels on the shoulders. I like to move those. So normally they're like this. What I'll do is pop them out and rotate them around and reattach them in the same spot, but like when they're reattached in the same spot, now there's like this kind of angle bit that's poking out, it's sticking up further so it makes the shoulders look a little taller, you see more of this colorful sticker detail, and I think that just makes the shoulders look a little bit more interesting. And then for the cannon, I still use the same arm for it, but instead of doing it over the top, I go underslung. I can peg in like that, and then just kind of have it like that, and I think that looks a little better. Also, it doesn't hide as much of the nice arm detail that you get in this mode. Now, articulation-wise, it's a little bit hindered. He's not a brick by any means, but it's a little bit hindered both due to just the size and weight of things and also like the bulk. So the head articulation, especially if you get rid of that crown, is exactly the same. The guns up here can articulate exactly the same as the lower legs, so you've got the in-out rotation, knee bend, all that, and you can also rotate side to side using the waist. The wings move the same way as they always did. The arms, I'm going to use this one because it's not weighed down, can rotate. They could theoretically do the 360, except this stuff gets in the way. They also can go in and out, which is great. They can only go in this far before they click into place where they go for like horse mode, but I feel like that's perfectly serviceable. The elbow bend is not as good. It only goes up to 90, so it's a little bit not as good, but still totally serviceable. And then also there's that bicep swivel, which, as I mentioned, that was originally really, really tight. So thanks to the shock oil, I can do this and not worry about breaking it. The wrists do not rotate. They don't rotate at all, but you can flip them up. One thing that I do really like about these arms is, while the elbow articulation is a little bit hindered, you actually get a butterfly joint because of this joint up here for the horse mode, so you can tilt the arms back a little ways, and I really like that. I feel like that really helps to add a slightly more dynamic look to the devil mode. One unfortunate thing is, because this gun is so heavy, it puts a lot of weight on this joint here, so that means if you rotate the arm up, it tends to want to fall back. You don't get a waist swivel because of the fact that this whole section splits in half. I kind of wish that they had figured out a way to work that in, but oh well. So no waist swivel, though you can do the sort of faux ab crunch thing that I mentioned before. You got hips that go forward that far and back that far. They can go out a lot. You also get thigh swivel. You do get the double jointed knees, but the knees are hindered by this junk. Take that off. I believe you can get a little bit more, maybe? No, even with that stuff taken off, it just kind of stops because of the way everything's banging against itself. So you get about 90 degrees on the knees, which isn't terrible, but not as good as the base robot mode. And then the feet, you can angle forward a lot, back a little ways. Because of the transformation, you can bend up the toe, and you also get a little bit of ankle tilt. Let's wrap things up with one final round of size comparisons, because, oh geez, this video is like, the raw footage is like 2 hours long at this point. Here is Dark Shinkalion in his devil mode with the standard deluxe squad, and this adds a substantial amount of height and, again, bulk to this guy. I feel like the Centaur mode, very cool, but like the bulk was primarily distributed kind of towards the back of the figure, whereas here the bulk is just kind of all up and around. And to show how he measures up to a more standard size robot mode for a Shinkalion Z figure, here he is with the N700S Hida. And just for fun, here's Dark Shinkalion's Devil mode next to the N700S Hida with, I don't know what this mode's called, but this is with the kind of add-on trains that this set came with, which adds a little bit of height and bulk to this guy as well, so it makes him a little bit bigger. And you can also see that I've done some of the like fan mode placement of some of these extraneous bits here just to kind of keep it together. So like, again, those are options for these guys. For a look at what's going to be coming up in the next video, we're going to be taking a look at this fellow. And here he is with the duck tank. So that is going to do it for Shinkansen, Henkei Robo, Shinkalion Z or Z, Dark Shinkalion. I absolutely adore this set. It was so worth it. I mean, I feel like if you don't factor in shipping, the price for this guy, absolutely not bad. But even if you do factor in shipping, the amount that I paid for this guy in total, well worth what you get. There's just so much here, so many different modes. They're all really cool. The articulation's great for pretty much everything. The detailing's great. It does suck that I had to paint the windows in myself, but it's okay. I like a project. I think more than that, what sucks is having to carve out channels around the collar section so you can turn the heads better. That's just how it goes with these things sometimes, you know? If you are interested in a dark Shinkalion, they do have them over at Hobby Search, and it's a very good price considering what you're getting. I think it's well worth it. I've also messed around a bit with kind of combining him with the N700S Hita, and I made this really weird looking thing that didn't look terrible, I don't think, but I was a little annoyed that I couldn't quite find a place for a couple of components. That was just a little bit disappointing. As a standalone set, this is amazing, and in terms of like what you can do with other Shinkalion figures, it's great. This is a rabbit hole, and I'm trying to be at least slightly more responsible with my money. We'll see how that goes. But that is going to do it. I've gone on for far too long. This video is almost 2 hours long. My voice is already going. You can probably hear it. What do you all think of this guy? The set in general, the individual modes, any of that stuff? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. The Patreon is still an option. We've got the one and only tier, which is $1 if you feel inclined to join. You don't have to, but it's there. Other than that, thank you everybody for watching. This has been quite the adventure. I will see you all next time, and remember, art is more than meets the eye.